Welcome to another session of Boss Talk. So Boss Talk itself was created back in 2018 as a way to connect entrepreneurial women together through our stories. So far too often, we only see the highlights on our social media. So during Boss Talk, we put aside that need to present ourselves in a certain kind of way. And we have those candid conversations with one another that aren't typically featured on our social media platforms. And that includes the good, the bad, and the ugly that happens along the entrepreneurial journey. I am the founder of Boss Talk, and my name is Lavista Jones, like Asta Lavista. And I have been serving clients since 2005 through my consultancy, 31 Marketplace. And to keep it short and sweet, I help overwhelmed entrepreneurs get shit done without burning themselves out by helping them focus on their systems and their self-care. So my unique magic is helping to find operational gaps, streamlining processes, and identifying areas that my fellow bosses do not need to actually be doing themselves. And with that reclaimed time, we focus on them practicing more consistent self-care. And so I help them develop those self-care practices so that they are recharged while they are working in their business instead of always feeling depleted. Because I truly believe that in order to fulfill the vision of your business, you have to take care of the visionary. So I'm excited that you all are here with us. We are going to go just a smidge over our hour time limit that we normally have, just because we got such a late start with the technical difficulties that we had. But for those that might be their first time joining Boss Talk, I want to let you all know that we do have a bit of a workflow for today's session. So there are some set questions that I have for each of the guests, and so I'll go through those. But please, as you have questions or comments that come up, leave that in the comment box, and so we'll address those as we go. But there also will be a specific time that you can unmic yourself and ask a question if you want to, or you can type it in and I will ask the guests that question that you have typed. So with that, I want to go ahead and introduce who our guests are. So our first guest is Veronica Armstrong, and whether she is coaching leadership teams, executives, or women who simply desire to break out of their invisible box so they can live life on their terms, Veronica's mission is to help people find the clarity and confidence that they need to go after the opportunities that they deserve. Veronica is the founder of Leadership Life Support, which was created to help professional women become better leaders from the inside out. She has now extended her services to support women who want to take responsibility for their lives so that they can live life on their terms. Amen to that. Yes, with all the snaps. A certified life and leadership coach, entrepreneur, and corporate executive, she brings all of her experiences to the table, including a life of verbal and physical abuse, 3 years as a ward of the state, being shoveled from group homes to foster homes, and making it to the E-suite in corporate America. New York native, Veronica resides now in Phoenix, where she enjoys roller skating occasionally. Word? Like, wow, okay. Reading, hanging out with her husband and her son. And you can connect with Veronica on your favorite social media networks and subscribe to her blog at leadershiplifesupport.com. Our other guest is Dr. Erika Brown. Dr. Erika Brown is the founder and CEO of Dr. Erika by Design, a company that focuses on empowering women to live an authentic, mindfully crafted life. She is a wife, a pharmacist, entrepreneur, and creative spirit with a desire to help women step outside of their comfort zone and find the woman and life they deserve. Through her corporation, Dr. Erika offers programs, online communities, and live events for professional women that set them free to be their authentic self in every area of their lives. I love it, love it, love it. So thank you both for being here. So I want to open it up by having you all tell us what a little bit about like the corporate positions that you hold and that you held, and how they might be connected with what you're currently doing in business, with the bios that I just read about each of you. So I will start with Veronica, and then I'll ask Erika to answer that same question.
Well, mine is pretty easy. First, let me say hello and thank you for having me tonight. I appreciate being here. Mine is pretty easy because I have been a call center executive for probably most of my career. My career started back in the late 80s and I got into call center in the early 90s. And because I'm a very logical person and I love operations and I love working with people, I have stayed in that arena for close to 30 years. The difference is for me is that I'm a corporate person who just so happens to be in call center. And I have worked in about 5 different verticals, meaning I haven't done it in the same industry. So I've never on the phones, people always want to know that, but I went from walking in as a supervisor and making it all the way to the E-suite as a VP, managing a team of 400 plus people in different states.
Nice. Love it. How, if at all, does what you do in corporate right now connect with your business?
I'm constantly coaching and working with people who want to be leaders, who are already leaders. And what I've learned over the years is that there are so many people who come to my office and say, "Hey, how did you get to where you are? What did you do to get to where you are?" And they don't realize that I didn't start on the phones and work my way up. I worked really, really hard to get an education, but I also learned how to play the game. And there is a game that must be played. And I was very willing to play that game because ultimately I knew that playing the game and winning at it would get me what I needed. So where the similarities come into play is that I coach people on a regular basis, and I didn't want to do it just in corporate America. I wanted to be able to do it outside of corporate America because there are so many other people. If they had the information that I have to share with them, they'd be able to see some success in their own careers.
Got it. I love that. And Dr. Erika, you want to tell us a little bit about your prior corporate position and how that connects with what you are doing in the marketplace right now, if there's a connection?
Sure. So my background, I am a chemist, public health person, pharmacist by training. And I spent all of my career after pharmacy school in corporate America in the setting of working for various pharmaceutical companies. So I lived in Jersey for a while. I worked in-house in medical affairs, did publications, strategy, and most of my career was spent in a role that probably no one has ever heard of before because it's specific to pharma, but it's called a medical science liaison. And essentially, everybody knows sales, right? You know, sales reps, they come in, they drop off drugs, they bring lunch. I'm like the medical version of sales. So we can't do the fun stuff. Like they won't let us bring in lunch for everybody. We don't have pens. We don't have all the flashy stuff. But we're there to basically educate the healthcare professionals on the therapies and get them involved with clinical trials or advisory boards, do competitive intelligence, things like that. So that was my life in corporate. I worked from home, had the company car, but we were always on the road, whether it be in a plane, train, whatever, always on the road, just going to see various customers. And it's funny because what I'm doing now has nothing to do with that. I wanted to run far, far away from pharma. I look back at, I guess, my path, and I always thought I was a confused child, because I did chemistry, I did public health, I did pharmacy. It doesn't kind of make sense. In a way, it's kind of like a random path, but I think all those different turns kind of made me who I am, and the experiences that I had in pharma, they weren't all that great. And I experienced some bouts of depression, anxiety, and just all the challenges of, like Veronica said, of playing the game. I was never good at playing the game. So it stressed me out. And I left corporate America because of that. And that's really the the crust of why I do what I do now, is because I want to be able to empower women to make those decisions. For me, it was hard because I said, I spent 9 years in college to get these degrees.
Mm-hmm.
If I leave this role and I leave pharma, who am I? Like, who am I? And, what will people say if I left pharma and, went to do whatever? So all those different outside voices, those preconceived notions that I had in my head of what people would say kind of held me back. And I want to help women that feel that stuck and stagnant, that feel like, they were sold this go to school, get a good job sort of phenomenon. I want to help them say, screw what society says I should do. I'm going to go do Erika. Yeah. You can either get on board or you can move along, but this train is going forward to where I want to go.
I so love that. And I feel like the topic of your identity, if you will, being tied to like your vocation, like I feel like that could be like a whole show like in and of itself. Like seriously, because when I left corporate America, I totally felt like lost, like, partially like, well, what do I do? Who am I? Like, I don't know who this person is anymore, because it was so wrapped up in what I did with my job. And another thing that I can relate to that you were talking about is just that that stress that you feel, and all the stuff that kind of goes along with it. And so those that are familiar with my story know that I experienced burnout at like such a terrible level, that when I realized like something is not quite right, like I had a full-blown panic attack on the 202 driving into the office. And I finally got into the office and I'm like, got myself together enough that people wouldn't think like, what is wrong with like this lunatic walking into the office? And I got to my desk and I was like, all right, I got to get on the phone. And I called my husband. I'm like, so I'm coming home. And he's like, why? And I'm like, I'll explain it to you later. And then I called a psychologist and was like, someone needs to see me because I think I've lost my mind. Like the stress and everything of the 7 years that I was there for my second round of corporate America, like really had me thinking, I've lost it. I've lost it. Like something has snapped. And so went through therapy and different things. And, I tried to go back. I was actually away for 6 weeks of short-term disability with that. And I tried to go back, but like the lack of boundaries and just bad habits I had developed while I was there in corporate America, like I just couldn't do it anymore. And so it actually led to me resigning from a career that I loved, like every single bit of it, like the hustle, the bustle, the meetings, the traveling, like all of it. But I just, I didn't set myself up well for that position because my boundaries sucked. Even the ones that they were shitty at best, like they were terrible. And it really led to the downfall of like my own health by ignoring those boundaries. And so that takes me into, I think, like the next question I want both of you all to answer. And, when I made the decision that I can't continue in this position with corporate, after having a conversation with my husband, like I just left. And so luckily I had prior experience with my business because I had launched it back in 2005. And this, experience in corporate kind of like was sandwiched in between me originally going out on my own and then me relaunching back in 2014. But at that time, I didn't have any clients, I didn't have any prospects. But, I wasn't going into something like brand new that I had never done before. So it's like I had some familiarity there. Talk to us about something that you wish you had known before actually like launching your business, especially since you were building everything up while you were still working full time. And then Veronica, I'll come to you and ask you the exact same question.
Okay. Something I wish I would have known. Yeah. So much I wish I would have known. Before starting, I think for me, so I'm a perfectionist type A person at heart. You know, again, chemist, pharmacist. It's like two careers where you want somebody to be like on it. You don't want them to be kind of lollygagging around. So that's kind of my person. That's kind of who I was.
Mhm.
And, you know, starting into the entrepreneurial space, I kind of had that same mindset. I wanted the perfect business plan. It was going to roll out like this and X, Y, and Z. And, you know, my posts, they had to be perfect. I would spend an hour trying to like, it has to be impactful. It has to bring value. It has to be X, Y, and Z. And, you know, all that time trying to perfect things, you get nothing done. It's like you're so focused on the perfectionism of it that, you know, it just nothing moves forward. I had to realize, and I wish I would have known this sooner, that, you know, perfectionism, it's the death of progress. And, you know, we spend so many times, like I say, just trying to perfect things. And for me, I had to finally accept that and really take myself out of the equation, because that's all it was.
Mhm.
It was me trying to show up perfect. And in the end, it's not really about me. And if what I'm saying is meant for whoever, then they're gonna get it. They're gonna grasp it. It's gonna touch them. I don't have to work at it. And once I realized that and realized nothing's gonna ever be perfect, I think I was better off. So that is the one thing I wish I would have understood sooner than later. But
Yeah,
you know,
because
better
people
later than never.
they've been waiting. Like, where's
They've
that?
been waiting.
Yeah, they've been waiting.
She's coming.
Yes, she's here. She's here. So, Veronica, same question, you know, and especially, you know, with you still being in corporate America and juggling everything that you need to do with your job, with, you know, getting this vision that you had for your business and what it took to get that launched into the marketplace, and really, you know, juggling both of those things, being a wife and a mom, you know, and having some sort of life in between all of that. What's one thing that you wish you had known when you first launched the business into the marketplace?
You know what? I want to respond in a different way,
Okay.
to give people perspective, because I think not sharing this information would be, it wouldn't be in my best interest not to share it. So I wish that I would have known who I was and what my values are, because years ago, because had I known who I was, how I was wired, and what my values were, I would have started living on my terms years ago. Because unlike you allowed work to stress you out. In 2005, I literally walked away. I was a VP at a major financial institution.
Mhm.
I walked away. I resigned. I didn't have a job to go to. I didn't have, someone waiting in the wings for an interview. I literally walked away because I knew I could not take what I was being forced to do. And I had an agreement with my husband because, strictly speaking, I had executive stock options. I was that desperate. I said, we're going to cash these stock options in and we're going to live off of this. So for an entire year, I stayed at home, and I was the board, the chair of the board of directors for the Goodwill of Central Arizona, which is the largest Goodwill in the country. And that entire year, I spent my time immersing myself into the community and understanding what it was that the Goodwill was doing around the community and how they were serving people in the community. I also went to Trinidad and Tobago as the board chair to help uh, them kind of understand the need to provide accommodations for people with disabilities, because I have a sister with a disability. And in that year, I figured out who I was. And because I was able to figure out who I was able to, when people say, well, who are you? What do you do? I didn't start with my job, which is what a lot of people do. So because I became intimately familiar with who I was able to speak to who Veronica is, not who she's defined by, in terms of her title, but who she is, what I like, what I dislike, and most importantly, what I will no longer tolerate. I wish I had known that sooner, because then the decisions that I've made about my business today would have been made years ago.
I love that. Like, I actually like exhale, like listening to you talk about that, because yeah, that is so important to get in touch with yourself. And so I think that the identity crisis, you know, that Eric and I were even talking about when we left those corporate positions, like that's tied to that. Like, who am I? And, you know, sometimes we don't always have a really good grasp on that. So that, thank you so much for sharing and reframing that, because that was really, really good background information. So I want to ask you also, with the business, what would you say, if you could pinpoint like one of your greatest successes with the business so far? What would you say it's been?
Starting
Starting. Okay. I love
and getting out of my own way.
that. All right. So can you talk to us about the failures and maybe the one of your greatest lessons learned that got you to that point of starting?
Erica already spoke on it. It's having to have the perfect business plan, having to have. I'm a perfectionist. I'm an achiever, and I'm also a Gallup certified strengths coach. So my number one strength is I'm an achiever. I'm a maximizer, always trying to make things better, always trying to make it perfect, because this little girl is not going to put out anything that's mediocre. I'm not going to give that to you on a silver platter to criticize me.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't pay because it holds you back, and we're not promised tomorrow. So if you've got something to put out there today, you've got to recognize, who are you shortchanging as a result of your trying to be the best? You're human just like everybody out there. Put it out there, and the man upstairs, he's going to take care of the rest. You just got to trust.
That's good. That's really, really good. Um, with you, Erica, with things being fairly newer in your business, what would you consider one of your main successes in the business so far?
Oh my goodness, my main success just happened this week. And that's the book. Like that was my child. It was a labor of love, and it was also like a terrifying experience for me.
Yeah.
Um, and I say that because and Aisha, is Aisha on here? Aisha's on here.
Yeah.
I remember us having a conversation about doing this book. And I'm like, okay, we can do a book. First of all, I don't have a social media presence, Aisha. Like, nobody knows me.
Yeah.
And why are people gonna want to come and, like, first of all, why are they gonna look at my email, this random chick's email? Why are they gonna want to be in my book and share their story? Like, no. So it was that whole idea of almost like I wasn't worthy enough for somebody to want to sort of be involved with this project. So I had to overcome that challenge. And I think as I began to read, the stories of the women, Aisha's story, Lavista's story, Tandra's story, Tandra's on here, it kind of helped me, like hearing your stories and seeing how you guys overcame challenges, how you stayed motivated, how you just went through things to get to where you are today. It was empowering, and it made me feel like I was not alone. Because again, being in corporate, I had these blinders on. I only know what's available in the corporate life.
Yeah.
I didn't have a large circle of women that were entrepreneurs. So when I was having, like these fearful moments, I thought, well, I'm crazy because nobody's scared like this. But to see your stories, like I was scared of failing too, or I was struggling with X, Y, and Z. It was like, hey, these are some bomb chicks and they are struggling too. So I'm not alone, So it was so empowering. It was just amazing to just see the stories and to have it come full circle and now be available. It's like amazing. That's my success. So I'm so happy and so thankful to all of you ladies that are here on Zoom tonight for being in there as well.
Oh, I'm honored that you asked me to be part of it. And so this book that we are talking about is called A Life Mindfully Crafted is a Life Well Lived. And so there's a question in that book that I wanted to ask you and Veronica, because when I saw it and responded to it, I was like, this is a great question. And it is, what is the worst advice you've received regarding how to live your best life? So what is that advice that you received, Erika? Share that with us.
I have that question in my section in the book.
Well, it's in my section, and I want you to answer.
I know. The worst advice, and I wrote this question. The worst advice that I've received about how to live your best life. Mm-hmm. Oh shoot, I should know an answer for this. I think I'm gonna have to steal from I think it's Aisha that said this, because I totally agree. So I'm sorry, Aisha, I'm stealing your answer, but it resonates. And it's, do what you love, and basically everything will work out. I love dancing, and I don't know if I'm gonna, be able to survive as a dancer right now. So I think that whole do what you love thing is fine, but there's so much more to it. Like, there's so much more work behind do what you love. So I think that's kind of the worst advice. It's not fleshed out enough of a statement to actually be, I guess, relevant.
Got it. Okay. All right. So, Veronica, I want to ask you the same thing. What is the worst advice that you have received regarding living your best life?
So my response is going to be a little controversial because a lot of us get it, but I'm going to put it into context. And I think it is, go to college, get a degree, and get a good job. I wish someone had said to me what I've said to my niece, who came out here several years ago. I said, what do you love to do? I love to do hair. Well, then, great. I need you to go to college, get a degree, start your business, own the salon, and be a cosmetologist, right? I think when our parents tell us to go to school, get a degree, and get a job, it limits us. And it doesn't allow us to be who we were born to be. So I think for me, if my parents had said that, I would have appreciated it more if they had also said, but don't necessarily think that being, working for someone else is the be all and end all.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's so good. And, I'm thinking about just like my own, upbringing. Like, I think that going to college was an expectation that was set, by my dad. But I mean, to be perfectly honest, like when my senior year in high school came around and my guidance counselor was like, what are you going to do after high school? And I was like, well, what I want to do is I want to get married and have babies. And that wasn't a popular response around the high school. It was like, but yeah, no, you can't do that. And I'm like, but that's what, if you ask me, what do I want to do? Like, that's what I want to do. I want to get married. I want to have a family. I had always wanted to be a wife and a mom, always. But 18, no prospects of marriage at the time. And it was like, well, I guess I'll go to school, right? And happened to be a double major while I was there as a bio and psych major. But my dad would always joke when people would ask, like, hey, what's she going to school for? And he was just like, she's just there for her MRS degree. And they're like, well, what kind of newfangled degree is that? And he's like, MRS, her missus, like, she's just there until she gets married. Because it's like my dad knew truly what my heart was. Now, I mean, I wouldn't trade going to school really for anything. Like, it was a really great experience. But looking at how my life is right now, it's just like, did I need to spend that many hours in the lab dissecting brains and lifting fingerprints and, training rats to do this in order to do the work that I do now and love with my clients? And it's like, so I totally get, what you're saying there, because I always looked at it like going to school, my corporate life, all of it was always my plan B, like always. Like my plan A was always having my family. And then eventually this business kind of like grew and was birthed. Like I didn't really always see that happening in my future, but what I, have with my family it's what I've wanted to do since I was like 6, be a wife and a mom. So yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from there, from that standpoint. And so I want to ask you both, with everything that you all have going on, with the corporate responsibilities, with launching the businesses, both being married, so having spouses that you need to interact with, and those kind of things, having families, all that stuff. How are you all prioritizing your self-care with everything else that you're juggling? Veronica, and I'll start with you.
Well, as you know, I'm an avid spinner. I've been doing drop saddle spinning since about 2005. I ran track as a kid, played basketball. I was very athletic because I had 2 younger brothers. I grew up with 2 younger brothers in New York. So working out and all of that is a part of who I am. But every now and then I kind of let it slide because I have this all or nothing kind of, mentality that I have to deal with. But I have an amazing relationship with my Peloton, amazing relationship. And if I'm not up at 6 o'clock in the morning on that bike, then I'm on it. If it's at 10:30 at night, I will be on that bike because it sits right here. And I have absolutely zero excuses, no excuses for me not to get on that bike.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. And I love your posts, about the bike rides that you're doing. I'm like, yeah. And the one, especially the one that you made that people are like, why are people hating on me and my bike? And I'm like, because they can't afford to spend that much money on a bike. Like, that's where the hate is coming from, not the fact that you're exercising. So Erika, how are you, prioritizing your self-care with everything going on?
So it's funny, prioritizing self-care for me now is different than when I was in corporate.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little bit easier. I think the last week was very crazy, and I realized that I have to schedule like time for myself. So I need to at least schedule 1 hour a day. And it can be broken up in 30 minutes and 30 minutes, whatever. But I need what one of my girlfriends in school called be nice to me time.
Mm-hmm.
She used to take be nice to me days where she would, go get her mani and pedi or go shopping or whatever. I need at least an hour a day to just be me, be Erika, and just exhale. So that's one way that I'm incorporating, I guess, my own self-care and kind of taking care of myself. My self-care itself is different. I love the gym. I can't go to the gym. I love working out. So I feel you, Veronica, with your Peloton. I'm a Zumba chick, so I like doing that. But for me, self-care and I thank you for this, Lavista, actually. You gave me a new definition of self-care with one of your posts, because I used to think like I hated self-care. Because I'm like, I hate massages. Like they just didn't do anything for me.
Okay.
So my self-care is dance and music as one. If I can't have dance in my life, I'm a wreck. So I will dance in my kitchen. I will dance in my closet. I will just turn on music in my office. I need to like zone out and just embrace the beat, the song, the lyrics, everything. That's my life. My other self-care is I do cosplay.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if everybody knows what cosplay is.
School us.
So you know about comic books, so Marvel, DC, Superman, Black Panther. You've probably seen local Comic Cons in your area, and you see people that are dressed up as different characters. So I'm the crazy chick that's dressed up in the restaurants, driving down the street, going to these Comic Cons. And creating my cosplay costumes is part of my self-care. Like last year I did Cruella de Vil, and I got a faux white fur coat And I would spend every Saturday, I had my Sharpie, my latex gloves, I had my music sitting there beside me, and I would paint on the Dalmatian stripes. And it sounds so crazy, but I was in my little happy space, and it was amazing.
Nice.
And that's how I do it. That's like what I do for self-care: dance, music, cosplay.
Now, but I want to go back to something that you said though, because it was just like, it was one of those like, oh my God, like, so when you said you hated self-care, you need to,
Yeah. What'd you say?
what you said when you said I hated self-care, I said I need more. I need more information.
Okay, so I hated self-care because, again, the perfectionist in me felt like you had to do self-care right.
Mm.
Like there was some perfect way to do self-care, and everybody, like I said, it was massages. I would go to a massage parlor and get an hour massage, and the first 10 minutes, I'm like, there's somebody random touching me. Okay, okay. Get over that. For the next 40 minutes, I'm like, do I need to cook dinner? Do I need to go to the grocery store? What do I need to do at work tomorrow? And then like 55 minutes later, my mind is like, okay, Erika, you can breathe. And the masseuse nicely comes over and says, Erika, we're done now. I'm gonna leave the room, you'll take your time. And I'm like, dude, I just got calm enough to try and enjoy this. And that's what I thought self-care was, and it sucked. But when I saw, I think it was a blog that you did that said, self-care is whatever energizes you. It's whatever you feel is helping you sort of recenter yourself. I was like, word? Self-care can be about me? Like, seriously?
Yes.
Like, self-care is caring for myself the way I want to? I'm like, yes. Okay, I get it. We are good.
Yes.
So that's why I hate it.
Self-care.
Self-care.
Got it. Okay. That makes me feel a little bit better. I'm like, what do you mean
Yeah.
self-care? Like, what? How are
Yeah.
we connected and you don't like self-care? And I think I know the post that you're talking about. It was probably the revelation, the greatest revelation of self-care. I think that's the name of it. And it's about really witnessing like this aha moment, just like you were talking about with the client, that it was just like she was so preoccupied with doing it their way, you have to do it this way. You've got to go get a massage. You've got to take a week off of work. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. And, trying to live up to that standard of self-care was driving her crazy. And so the things that she was doing, she wasn't even counting as self-care. And so, she was exercising every day and going out and being in the sunshine. And she was, taking sabbaticals like for a few weeks at a time to go out of the country with her family. And she's like, but I suck at self-care. And I'm like back the train up. Like, what are you talking about? And it was because she kept thinking, I've got to hit somebody else's standard. And I think it goes back to like what Veronica was saying earlier, like it's about knowing yourself, like what makes you happy. So everybody's definition is completely different, because what works for me is not going to work for you. What works for you is not going to work for Veronica. It has to be about what brings you joy as an individual. So thank you for clarifying that for me.
Thank you for changing my life with that.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm so glad that resonated with you. So glad. So Veronica, I want to ask you about one of your offers that you have out in the marketplace right now. So I know that you have a program called the Life on Purpose Coaching Program. Tell us briefly what that entails for the ladies that are listening and will be listening to the replay.
Well, one of the things I noticed in coaching, especially with older women, is that we give so much of ourselves to our families, to our careers, and to others, that you get to a point in life where you're like, whoa, who am I? And what do I even like? You don't know who you are. You don't know what you like. You don't know what you want to do. You don't know how to make your heart sing. And so I came up with this idea of creating this coaching program to help middle-aged women kind of reacquaint themselves with who they are and find out those things that make their heart sing so that they can take the steps to live life on their terms. And so I put the program together. It was an idea last year. I put it together earlier this year, and I have a couple of clients in it now, and they are making tremendous progress. And as a coach, it's so amazing to see the light bulb come on and women realize that you can live life on your terms. You just have to take the bull by the horns, and you have to decide that that's what you're going to do. And it's almost like self-care. You got to take your life into your hands, and you have to move forward and do those things that make you happy. It doesn't mean that everybody else is going to be unhappy. It's just that means you're going to be honoring yourself unlike you've honored yourself in the past. So it's an amazing program. I'm very excited about it. I'm just looking to get more women into it because I want to see women live life on their terms.
I love it. I love it. And so I feel like that's tied to, your own personal definition of success, right? We've talked about, self-care is personally defined, your relationship with your own identity, you have to define that. So success, what does that look like for you? How do you define success for yourself?
For me, it is living life on my terms. It's being able to decide what I want in my life and being happy with that, with whatever the outcome might be. If it's, if for me, one of the things is I don't watch a lot of television. I read a lot, and people have sometimes said, you need to get out and you do more. I'm like, yeah, but this is fun to me. And it's moving my life forward. To me, that's success because it's what I want in my life. And so success is different for everyone, but it is defined by what makes me happy and what makes my heart sing.
I love that. I love it. So same question, Erika. How do you define success? What does that look like for you?
I think for me now, success looks like being able to be Erika. It's so funny. I was talking to one of the co-authors in the book. We used to work together in corporate, and she recently saw me in a video. And she's like, Erika, I love your hair. It's curly. It matches your personality. When we were in corporate, you used to have such short, straight hair. And it's not you. And I think for me, that's my success, is being able to be my loud, crazy, quirky, bold, animated self, and love it and not be ashamed about it, not have to contain it or hide it, and just be authentically me and live the life that I was designed to live. That's one way that I define my success. The other way that I define my success is that even in my corporate life, I always found myself, women gravitated to me in terms of trying to figure out how they can, I guess, elevate in their career, how they can make moves in their career. And even though I didn't like to play the game, I knew how to play the game, and I could teach you how to play the game. And I think being able to still uplift women, help women, spotlight women, highlight women, just empower them to be amazing is success for me. To watch someone else grow and get that spotlight and see how they shine, if I can help with that, that is the ultimate success for me as well.
That's good. That's good. And I've got to think that, showing up as your authentic self, there has to be a level of fearlessness there. So I know that you have a program as well that you have launching coming up, I think, in June. Talk to us a little bit about what the Fearless Challenge is.
So this will be like new news. So the Fearless Challenge is all about, being just that, is letting go of the fear of moving forward, stepping out of the box, basically just living life on your terms. Right now we have the Brains, Brilliance, and Boldness group going on, and it's really just trying to get women to embrace being bold. And the Fearless Challenge will just be a continuation of that. It'll be a 4-week group challenge where we will tackle What are you afraid of? What's on the other side of your fear? How can we really address that and help you to at least start to make those baby steps to move forward when you are ready to step out of the box? You're ready to step out of your comfort zone. You're ready to actually be bold and proud and love it. So that's what the Fearless Challenge is going to be about. 4 weeks, group of women making it happen. A lot of fun. And yeah, can't wait to get started.
Awesome. So I'll make sure that when this recording goes out to those that are part of the Boss Talk community, that they will get links to both of those programs that you ladies are offering. So the last question that I have for y'all before we wrap up, and I'll start with Dr. Erika and then Veronica, I will wrap up with you. What is one thing that you hope that the women that are listening now and that will listen later take away from your story?
I think for me, the one thing that I hope they take away from my story is it's okay to be different. I never really fit the mold of what people think I should be. I was a chemistry major. As a minority, I was a chemistry major. Like, that's not what you expect. And then, typically, and it's funny, I had this conversation today with another author from the book, and she's a chemist as well. And it's like, they think chemists need to be, well, I wear glasses, but glasses, pocket protector, very kind of, I don't know, nerdy, I guess. And we don't fit that mold. I'm a pharmacist. I do cosplay, for crying out loud. A Black chick that does cosplay that's a pharmacist. But I don't care. So I hope they take away from me that being yourself is okay. You are more than enough. Be unapologetically you. And that's what I hope they get, yeah, be you and be proud and don't be afraid to step out of the box.
Beautiful. Love it. Veronica, same thing. What is one thing that you hope that the women that are with us now and that will be listening to this later will take away from your story?
I am because of my upbringing and some of the things that I have been through, people expected me to become a statistic, and I did, but not the kind of statistic that they expected. So, but I became a different statistic because I came to learn that I was born with everything I need to be successful, and we all are. We cannot give away our power to others. We cannot succumb to I think the madness of others by listening to, the things that they tell you to do, and do you. And if there's something that you want to do, you owe it to yourself to try it. Because if you don't, you are not living up to the expectation that the man upstairs has for you. You were born with everything you need to be successful, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
Love it. Love it. So thank you both so much for saying yes and agreeing to this Boss Talk interview. I've so appreciated my time with the both of you, even though we had technical issues at the beginning. Thank you so much for hanging in there with me. And thank you all that joined us for the live recording. And thank everyone that is going to listen to this afterwards. So, if you want to be part of that Boss Talk community that I talked about earlier, just go to therealbosstalk.com and get on the newsletter. You'll get the recording of tonight's session so that you can play it back and listen to it forever and ever, amen, if you want to. And so with that, you'll also get the links to the programs that both Veronica and Dr. Erika talked about. So if you're interested in those, go ahead and look at the information that is sent out about both of those. And if something resonates with you, then go ahead and dive right into both of those. So with that, thanks again for joining this session of Boss Talk. And that's a wrap. So until next time, take care of yourselves, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.
Bye.